Today we learned about some surprising changes coming to the Elder Scrolls Online in Q1 of 2025. Now we knew that some quality of life improvements were coming soon to the game based on the studio director's letter, which was released last month, but how soon those changes were coming we weren't sure about, and it seems like there are even more updates on the way that weren't even hinted at previously. This all has to do with Update 45, which is the next base game patch for the Elder Scrolls Online, scheduled to hit the game in March, and it will be available for testing next Monday on the PTS. Here's everything that we know so far. First up, champion points. Now, this was a huge surprise to me, though it is something that the community has asked for years, so it's nice to see that this change is finally coming through. Now, what is changing is the green champion point tree, where many of the more useful and important nodes that you would want for crafting and quality of life are going to be changing from slotted stars into passives. And if you're not familiar, basically you only have 4 slots you can fill for any CP tree, whether it's green, blue, or red. And this was always tough with the green champion point tree specifically because there were so many good bonuses here that you would want to have active at all times. And these bonuses don't really make your character stronger. They're not combat based. So many players have asked for years if more of these options could be changed to passives so that they could be used all the time for some better quality of life, and the developers have finally listened here. So according to the stream today, there's going to be 9 stars which are changing from active to passive, starting with Meticulous Disassembly, then Plentiful Harvest, Treasure Hunter is next, also Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Homemaker, then there's Professional Upkeep, and finally Infamous, as well as Cut Purse's Art. So 9 stars that they mentioned on the stream. Maybe there'll be a few more that make it through to the patch notes next week. It is kind of interesting to see which ones are changing to passive, and kind of curious why some of the other ones are not. You could make an argument almost that nearly all of these could be passives, right? I mean, for example, why did they not include the stars for fishing? Why is the pickpocketing star passive but not the star for sneak? I'm not really sure. And again, this is just, pre-PTS, so some of these things might change. It is going to be really nice either way to free up some of your slots here and be able to slot some other things. For example, I think a lot of people may pick up some mount speed bonuses. For example, Gifted Rider, War Mount that you might not have had room for previously. I think Master Gatherer makes a lot of sense, picking this one up. And then you could just specialize from there. So overall, I wasn't expecting this really great change. And this was just one of the first changes that they mentioned. We saw some visual improvements coming to the game's starter zones as part of Update 45 as well. This is going to make a huge difference for new players and just the general visual appeal for the game when players are just starting out. We did get some side-by-side comparison screenshots, which I'll go ahead and put up for you to check out now. But the difference is pretty noticeable. I mean, these starter zones have not been touched probably for the most part in 10 plus years. And so the graphic quality for these zones generally a lot lower than, new zones and expansion areas, which we've seen more recently. So they're improving the lighting and the texture quality. They're going to improve the use of clutter and item placement to make the spaces feel more lived in. And they've also worked to blend the terrain transitions better so that these spaces look more natural and authentic. They also mentioned a big improvement to how water is going to look in these starting zones in terms of both the graphics and the animations, which you can sort of tell from the screenshots, but I'm sure will look much better during actual gameplay. So again, this is coming in Update 45 in just a few months, and it's going to be focused on the starter zones for the game. That's the zones of Balfoyen, Betnik, Bleak Rock Isle, Stros Mackay, and Canarthy's Roost. So far, it's looking really good, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be able to do some more of these updates to the other base game zones as well in the future. Another quality of life change on the way in Update 45 has to do with the game's map and removing some of the visual clutter from that Tamriel map or the world map interface. Basically, when you first unlock a zone, it's going to simply display the zone itself and your starting way shrine, basically the way shrine closest to the main zone quest or the starting quest for that zone. Then when you discover the main city or the main hub area, that way shrine is then going to be the main way shrine shown on your world map. Of course, you can still drill down into the zone map itself and still see all the way shrines, all the points of interest. This new change is just going to affect the overall Tamriel map, or the world map, in other words, to again simplify it, make it easier to see things. They also briefly mentioned color coding options for map pins as another map improvement in the UI. And then they also showcased this new animation for like zooming in and out of those same zone maps, which will also fade in the name of the zone at the same time, which is another cool addition, I think, to the map overall. But a few other small changes which are going to be helpful is converting disguises to collectibles. That's another thing that they mentioned during the latest live stream. Now, this might not cover every single disguise in the game right now, but it is going to cover most of them, and it should be a nice way to get some inventory space back, if disguises is something that you were using currently on your character. And now, an even bigger change, and another great one, especially for new players, is going to be a system of improved base mount speed. And what this means is that mounts in ESO should start noticeably faster than they currently are in-game, without any other benefits like training or the major gallop buff. Now, the end result should make your mounts just slightly faster overall where they are now. But again, the focus here is on improving that new player experience, especially where mounts, when you first get them in ESO, are like basically the same speed as sprinting if you don't have mount training or any other bonuses active. So having your mount actually be an improvement over your character just sprinting by themselves is going to be actually a really nice change for new players. And there is one other surprise change that I saved for the end here, as it was more like a mention and not a full change. At least it's not going to be quite active yet. And that is that ESO is going to start preparing the workflow for add-ons coming to consoles. So no add-ons are built yet, obviously. This is really just like a heads up that add-on developers will be able to start testing and working on console add-ons with Update 45. So add-on developers are going to get all the specifics next week about how add-ons can work for ESO on consoles. But there is a catch here, and that is that any new console add-ons can only be developed for current-gen consoles like Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5. Nothing older than that due to memory requirements. So that is another really interesting update. But other than that, we got notice of some new Cyrodiil testing available in week 2 of the PTS called the Vengeance campaign. This is basically a version of Cyrodiil, which is going to be highly altered to work on performance issues, and it basically strips away a lot of the complexity from your skills and also passives for ESO's classes. So in this new version of Cyrodiil, skills are going to be much simpler. For example, Puncturing Sweep from the Templar class is only going to deal damage instead of damaging, slowing enemies, and healing you. So you can kind of see the difference there, changing it just to a plain damage skill versus having, 2 or 3 effects. Also, this is huge. No passives are going to be used at all in this campaign, and no weapon skill lines, no guild skill lines, with, again, the purpose here being to just simplify in-game calculations as much as possible to try to get as many players as possible into Cyrodiil at the same time, again, with a focus on performance. Now, on the live servers, there will be a similar test for about 1 week, apparently at the end of March, and this is going to do the same thing. Much simpler abilities, no passives, to really dial in Cyrodiil performance and just see how many people they can get playing on the servers at once. So this is interesting. Definitely check that out if you want to participate. I believe they are giving out bonus AP for this one on the live server during that week in March, so just an FYI there. But that is it really in terms of those quality of life updates, at least for what was previewed today. Now, there will be patch notes for this update going live on Monday, and if there's anything else major revealed there, like class balance changes, for example, I will get you guys another video for that, so stay tuned. But I am curious what you all think about these changes to the base game of the Elder Scrolls Online. Let me know what you think about these in the comments section below. Do you think these will have a big impact, and why or why not? And as always, thanks again for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.